You're sitting at your desk, an email lands, your manager wants to talk, your heart rate climbs, your palms go damp, your stomach tightens into a fist. Nothing is chasing you, nothing is trying to kill you, and yet your body is behaving as though something is. This is the story of the most powerful survival system ever built, and what happens when it has nowhere to go. Roughly 300,000 years ago, a human ancestor is crouching in dry grass on the African savanna. Ahead, maybe 40 feet, a leopard is moving through the brush. The body does not wait for a decision. Within milliseconds, a small, almond-shaped cluster of neurons deep in the brain, the amygdala, fires. It doesn't consult logic. It doesn't weigh options. It sends one signal to the hypothalamus, which immediately kicks the adrenal glands into output. Adrenaline floods the bloodstream. Cortisol follows. The heart rate doubles. Blood pulls away from the digestive system and floods into the legs, the arms, the lungs. Vision narrows. Pain sensitivity drops. The body is now a single-purpose machine. Run, fight, survive. The leopard either catches the human or it doesn't. Either way, the encounter ends in minutes. The stress hormones metabolize, the body returns to baseline, the system resets. That system, that exact circuit, is sitting inside your skull right now. The amygdala does not know what year it is. It does not know what a quarterly review is, or a mortgage payment, or a social media comment. It knows one thing: threat detected. And when it fires the same way it fired on the savannah. Same hormones, same vascular response, same tunnel vision, same shutdown of digestion, immune function, and long-term thinking. The mechanism is identical. What changed is everything around it. For most of human history, threats were physical: a predator, a rival group, a failed hunt with winter coming. The stress response was a precise, calibrated tool for short, violent situations. The key word is short. Cortisol and adrenaline are not designed to stay elevated. They're designed to spike, resolve, and clear. The body budgets them like emergency reserves, useful in a burst, corrosive over time. Modern life does not give the system a chance to reset. The average worker in a developed country checks their email 74 times per day. Each notification is a micro-trigger, not a leopard, not a life-or-death situation. But the amygdala doesn't grade on a curve. It detects social threat, status threat, uncertainty, and it responds. A terse message from a supervisor, a performance metric trending the wrong direction, a missed deadline, a conversation that went awkward. None of these will kill a person. The body disagrees. Cortisol levels in modern adults are measurably higher than those found in our ancestors. Studies comparing cortisol in industrialized populations versus isolated hunter-gatherer communities show a consistent pattern. People with desk jobs, traffic commutes, and monthly rent obligations carry a baseline stress load that a Paleolithic human would only have experienced in the seconds before a physical confrontation. Except that Paleolithic human's cortisol would have crashed back down within the hour. For a significant portion of the modern population, it never fully does. The effects compound. Chronic cortisol elevation suppresses the immune system. It impairs the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational decision-making, impulse control, and long-term planning. It accelerates cellular aging at the level of telomeres. It disrupts sleep architecture, which in turn elevates baseline cortisol the following day. The system feeds itself. Stress produces the conditions that produce more stress. There is a term for this: allostatic load. It refers to the cumulative physiological cost of chronic stress exposure. The body adapts, but adaptation has a price. Blood pressure climbs and stays there. The cardiovascular system works at a higher idle. The inflammatory response, meant to protect against injury, runs at a low-grade chronic activation. The body is perpetually braced for impact against an enemy that never arrives in a form it can fight. This is not a character flaw. It is not weakness. It is a hardware problem. The human brain took approximately 2.5 million years to develop its current architecture. Industrial civilization is roughly 250 years old. The modern knowledge economy, the one built on screens and performance metrics and 24-hour communication access, is barely 30 years old. Evolution does not move at that speed. The amygdala calibrated to a world that no longer exists, and it has received no update. Some of the most common modern panic triggers, public speaking, social rejection, financial insecurity, activate the stress response at intensities comparable to genuine physical danger. Brain imaging studies show that social pain, the kind produced by exclusion or humiliation, activates the same neural regions as physical pain. The body does not distinguish between being cut and being publicly criticized. Both register as damage. Both trigger a defensive cascade. This produces a specific kind of suffering that is difficult to articulate. The person knows, rationally, that an awkward presentation will not kill them. The body does not accept this information. The cortisol is already circulating. The heart rate is already elevated. The rational mind watches the physical response happen and cannot stop it. This gap between what a person knows and what their body does is one of the defining experiences of modern anxiety. Anxiety disorders now affect over 300 million people globally, making them the most prevalent mental health condition on Earth. That number has trended upward consistently for decades. Theories vary. Urbanization increases the density of social comparison. Digital communication removes recovery time between social stressors. Economic precarity keeps financial threat signals chronically active. But underneath all proposed explanations sits the same structural fact. A panic system designed for the savannah is running on a schedule the savannah never imagined. The system has workarounds. Exercise metabolizes cortisol directly, which is why a 30-minute run can functionally simulate the resolution that physical escape once provided. Deep breathing activates the vagus nerve and manually engages the parasympathetic system, slowing the heart rate and signaling safety to the amygdala. Sleep allows cortisol rhythms to recalibrate. Social bonding, physical presence, touch, trusted voices, reduces amygdala activation in measurable ways. These are not psychological tricks. They are direct biological interventions on a system that responds to physiological inputs, not logical arguments. But none of them solve the structural problem. The structural problem is that the environment generates threats faster than the nervous system can resolve them. Every resolved stressor is replaced by another. The inbox empties and refills. The deadline passes and the next one appears. The performance review ends and the next quarter begins. There is no point at which the system is allowed to declare the territory safe and fully stand down. The predator is always somewhere in the grass. It just changes shape. Researchers studying long-term stress exposure have begun documenting something that carries a particular kind of weight. In populations with chronically elevated allostatic load, people in sustained financial stress, people in high accountability professions, people navigating prolonged social precarity, the amygdala itself changes. It becomes more reactive. The threshold for triggering the panic response drops. The system, over time, recalibrates toward threat. It learns to see danger everywhere because everywhere it has found danger. The brain that was built to survive a leopard, placed inside a world of quarterly targets and social media metrics and mortgage payments and unanswered messages, does not produce a calm, adapted human. It produces a human who is technically safe and physiologically under siege. The leopard is gone, the panic remains. And the question that stress researchers have not yet answered, the one sitting unresolved at the edge of every study, every brain scan, every cortisol measurement, is whether a nervous system shaped by 2.5 million years of mortal threat can ever fully learn that the danger has changed, or whether some part of it simply never will.